Thank you everyone for joining us on this lovely Saturday morning. We're going to have an opportunity to create a beautiful summer dish, and I'm going to show you how to make that. So today we are going to make a gazpacho, which is pretty much a cold soup. So a gazpacho is, it comes from Spain originally, and it's a nice complement to summer dish when you want that comfort food and you want soup, but it's too hot outside. We're going to take all of the fresh vegetables that are ready during this season and turn them into a soup that is still cooling and great during summer. So we're going to start by coming to the cutting board, and I'm going to show some of the ingredients that we are working with here. So I've already prepped them all, but as we come over to the cutting board, so in this bowl, we're going to do a tomato cucumber gazpacho. Okay, so this is what we are. This is what we're working with. So I have the tomatoes. I have them peeled. I have some onions, cucumbers, green bell peppers, and then a little bit of minced garlic in here. So those are going to be our solids for this dish. And then in this bowl, we have some tomato juice, a little bit of olive oil, tiny bit of red wine vinegar, a little bit of lemon juice, and then we have some hot sauce. I use Tapatio. It's one of my favorite hot sauces. Just add a little bit of seasoning and flavor there. And then from here, to help thicken the soup up, so it's not just vegetables and liquid, we're going to add some breadcrumbs, some fresh white breadcrumbs to blend it all together. And then we're going to spend some time making a really cool garnish. So at this point, we'll come back out, and I'm going to put these into the blender. We're going to blend it up nice and smooth. And then during that time, while it's blending, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make a coriander crema and brunoise some vegetables. Before I come back out to the wide angle camera, what I have over here, this blender is called a RoboCoupe. It's a very common industrial style blender. We used to make purees, we used to blend anything up, you can pulse with it. But those two bowls that I have, right? So I have all the vegetables here. I'm going to put the peeled tomatoes, onions, cucumbers, garlic into the blender. And then I'm also going to add the liquid, tomato juice, olive oil, hot sauce, lemon juice, red wine vinegar into the blender as well. We're going to make a consistency, a puree consistency. And before I turn this on and get started, I have a little bit of salt and pepper here. I'm going to add that, and then I will taste it later and add the salt and pepper later. So, give me 1 second. With the RoboCoupe, if you use a commercial blender, big thing with it here is it does have a hole in the top, which is great for adding liquid slowly and surely if you need to make a vinaigrette or a salad dressing. But that also means the liquid can come out. So I'm going to go ahead and put my hand on here and start pureeing this. Beautiful. So it's going to take a little bit. It's going to basically, we have these big chunks. As you notice, I cut up the tomatoes and the peppers and the cucumbers. And that was necessary. It's going to help it break down a little bit faster so we don't get some chunks. If there are too many chunks in at the end, what I can do is I can always run it through a strainer just to make sure that I get all of the chunks out. But again, it's super simple. It's basically a cold tomato soup, and it has that brightness of the cucumber in the background. Very easy to make. Very simple, and it's also really easy to make pretty. And like I said, it's great on a hot summer night, cooling and still comforting. Beautiful. So now that I've blended it up, we're going to come back over to the cutting board. Okay. So what you can see here is you can see that I have this puree, right? And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the breadcrumbs and I'm going to mix it in. And I'm going to throw it back on. So these breadcrumbs are really going to thicken it up. So it's not super liquidy. Because again, we just have vegetables and then we have juice in there. So to make this into a soup consistency, that thick style consistency, I'm going to add these breadcrumbs in and help thicken it up. All right. Come back out to the wide angle. Perfect. I'm going to puree this one more time, and then I'm going to show you how to make a coriander crema on top, and then how to brunoise a beautiful garnish. So while this is blending, again, this is super simple, very easy. It's a very comforting dish. It's something that I enjoy towards the end of summer and those hot August days. All right, so we'll come back to the cutting board here. And I will show you, we have this consistency that's a little bit thicker. Everything is nice and pureed. I can run it through a strainer if there's any more chunks in there. And the next step is very, very important for the gazpacho. So for the gazpacho to really have all those flavors come together, otherwise it's just going to taste, the flavors haven't fully merged yet. So we are going to get the tomato flavor, the cucumber flavor, the bell pepper flavor, and they're all going to be independent. We really want everything to join together. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and set it in a bowl, and we're going to chill it. So by chilling it, it allows the soup to thicken up. It allows the soup to thicken up, and allows all of those flavors to blend together. So this is a gazpacho that I made yesterday. This looks like a tomato soup, except it's cold, right? So it's not going to have that heat that's behind normal tomato soup. And what we're going to do with this, so this looks pretty bland. If we were to make a soup, I'm going to show you a couple ways to make it really pretty and stand out. So we'll go ahead and stay on the cutting board here, and we're going to start with some garnishes. So these garnishes are something that you want to accent the flavor. We have onion in our gazpacho, we have cucumber in our gazpacho, and we have bell pepper in our gazpacho. We have a red soup. How am I going to make this pretty? With a color contrast. So what I want to do with these, I want these colors to shine in the dish so that you get that pop of white, red, and green. But to do that, nobody wants to eat half an onion. Nobody wants to eat a big chunk of bell pepper. So for the garnish, we're going to brunoise these, which is an 1/8 inch by 1/8 inch cut. Okay, an 1/8 inch by 1/8 inch by 1/8 inch cube. So this was part of the side of the bell pepper. I cut it down to something I can work with. Anytime we do a brunoise, we really want to make sure that we have something to work with. And so first step is I'm going to get 1/8 inch by 1/8 inch or 1/8 inch strands all the way across. Okay, beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this. So now that I have my 1/8 inch strips, next step is for me to run across and cut it into the 1/8 inch cubes. Again, because we don't want one big bite of bell pepper or onion or cucumber. So I'm going to get this down to that 1/8 inch cube so that we have these beautiful cubes that are going to look really pretty on top. Awesome. So now that I have the bell pepper, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the cucumber. Same thing, right? Cucumber and onion gets a little bit difficult. Same thing as the bell pepper. We have this brunoise, but we have a round vegetable and I need to get it in the cubes. So what am I going to do? First thing I'm going to do is get this into something that I can work with. Okay. So here I have my cucumber. And now that I have a flat surface, I'm going to come in from up top and I'm going to cut some 1/8 inch long sheets before I cut it into strips. Being very careful not to cut myself and then stay even all the way down. We'll get one more sheet out of this and then we'll turn it and we'll start making those strips. So same as the bell pepper. Now I have something to work with. I'm going to turn this into those 1/8 inch thick strips. This takes time. So always take your time with special knife cuts. This is also known as this is a visual knife cut. It's not necessarily for the cooking process. It's more as this looks pretty, right? So I want to make sure that I take my time with it and get beautiful 1/8 inch cubes out of it. Now, anytime we are cooking, we do want to make sure that all of our cuts are even, so everything cooks the same. But again, as a garnish, we really want to make sure it's pretty so that everything comes out to the same size. So I have these cubes of cucumber that are all roughly the same size. So I'm going to go ahead and mix that with the bell pepper. Awesome. Trick here, anytime you scrape anything on your cutting board, you want to flip your knife upside down so that you don't dull the edge, okay? So I have a clean working space. My knife is still sharp, so I can use it to brunoise the onion. Onions are tricky. I don't know if you've ever seen Shrek, but onions have layers, okay? So we have a bunch of layers of onion. It's round. How am I going to get this into 1/8 inch cubes? The first step is very carefully to put a flat hand on top of the onion. And then I have to make the strips first. So I'm going to come in about an 1/8 inch down and cut a strip. With the onion here, one thing, I left the root on because this side is going to hold the onion together. And then I'm not going all the way back. If I go all the way back, I'm cutting individual strips. So I went up to about here, so it's all holding together right here. Then I'm going to come down 1/8 inch and do it again. Again, very careful not to cut myself. Another 1/8 inch. And then our last, oh, I lied. I got one more room for one more 1/8 inch in here. So again, very careful not to cut myself. And I'm going to get as close to the top as possible without breaking the whole onion apart, because this is going to help me. I can now pick this up and still move it. It's holding it all together, so it's not running all over the place. Next step is I'm going to come and make the strands. So same thing. I'm not going all the way up. I'm just creating some 1/8 inch strips here. Part of the onion is going to fall apart. So we just want to move those pieces out of the way. And not going all the way up. Beautiful. So now I have these strips that are in here. You can kind of see how it's falling apart. So the last step is to turn it and come in 1/8 inch up from the bottom to get those 1/8 inch cubes. Beautiful. So now I was able to get the onion down into this nice dice of cubes that are going to be the same size as the cucumber and the bell pepper. Okay. As we come over to the cutting board here, it's getting a little messy. I know these pieces run everywhere. So while we are on the cutting board here, so I have my broom. I'm going to mix everything up so it's nice and even. So I have the cucumber, bell pepper. I want that pop of green. I want a nice even mixture for the garnish on the finished gazpacho. Okay. Beautiful. So that's exactly what we're looking for the garnish, and that's just going to be an accent of flavor, little bites that'll come through and help the gazpacho shine. Next step is we're going to make a coriander crema. So in this bowl, I have just plain Greek yogurt. So I have plain Greek yogurt, nothing else. 3 things that I'm going to add to this to help season it. Number 1, I'm going to add some coriander. Okay. Coriander complements really well with the tomato and the cucumber. It's a warming flavor profile with a cold soup. Secondly, I'm going to add a little bit of lemon juice. That acidity is also going to balance. So we have an acidic yogurt that's a little bit tart, and then we have this acidity here that is going to pair with the acidity of the tomato and onion, and it's really going to help everything pop, right? So now that I have a little bit of coriander, a little bit of lemon juice, I'm going to take a pinch of salt and pepper and put it in here. Fun fact about salt, so we don't always add salt to stuff to make it salty. Salt really gets your saliva going, right? Which allows you to taste food a little bit better. So I'm just adding salt to help get the saliva going so that we can taste everything all together. So we still have a pretty white consistency here. You can see how runny it is. It's not super thick. That's what we're going for here. Next step is I'm going to pour this into a squeeze bottle real quick. And then after I do that, we're going to make some cool garnishes on top of the gazpacho. All right, so now I have my squeeze bottle. What I want to do is I'm going to move everything off of my cutting board, make it a beautiful surface to work with. Always good to keep your station clean. All right, so like I said, I made the gazpacho ahead of time because it does need to set and chill. As things get cold, they get a little bit more solid. So I allow the flavors to marinate overnight. And then while the flavors are marinating, it also solidifies so it can hold the weight of this yogurt crema. So I'm going to show a couple different examples of ways to make this look pretty. So number 1 that we can see, a common thing that you'll see in finer dining is you'll see the dots, right? That move down the side of the bowl, off canter, slowly getting smaller. So that looks very beautiful. See how it pops the red, and then the red also pops the white. So that's something that we can do. Another one that I like is the swirl. When you have a swirl, no matter how uneven it is, neat trick here. So you can take a toothpick And then you can put it in the center and pull it to the side, and it will end up creating this beautiful spider web, which looks very fancy, very unique, and just kind of elevates the dish, right? So we have a simple dish, and now we have this beautiful spider web that you can see in the center. So when you make your swirl, you can run a toothpick through it and get these cool waves in it. So that's a couple of ways you can see the garnishing. You can also take it into your dots and run it connecting down the dots and create these beautiful little hearts here. So there's a couple techniques that you can use to make this dish look elevated, even though we secretly know it's really simple just to blend everything up. So the last one, there is art in randomness. So that's what I'm going to do for this one. I love a little bit of sporadicness, and it kind of gets the eye to bounce all around. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a Picasso style random all over the place style soup. And then I'm going to take the brunoise vegetables that we made, and I'm just going to mound them up in the center. Beautiful. And so, and I'll say out here, we have this finished product of a beautiful tomato and cucumber gazpacho. We have a coriander crema. It's very unique. And then we have this mound of brunoise. So with every bite, we'll get a little bit more of that pepper, cucumber, onion taste to it. So that is what I have for a gazpacho. I hope you guys learned how to make gazpacho, learned a couple new ways to make your plate look cool and look professional when you're serving this with your friends at home.